Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blanks and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Best of Television podcast. Up first, Pauline's going to talk to you guys a little bit about why she hates Squirrel Girl. And after that, Drew's going to talk to you guys about Rick and Morty. Thank you for listening. Now, so here's what Squirrel Girl is.
Okay.
So, Squirrel Girl possesses squirrel-like powers, including razor-sharp claws, super agility, enhanced speed and strength, and a plushy tail.
Okay, so I will say, if a squirrel was kind of like charging me, like, you know, like if I was eating a sandwich on a bench and a squirrel ran up the bench towards me, I probably would throw my sandwich at it and let it have it. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, the Squirrel Girl. It's a little funny. It seems like what they're trying to do with this is they're trying to make a lighthearted, offbeat, angsty, teen kind of comedy thing with this. I don't know if it'll be live action or animated. I feel like it's better suited for animated because I don't
flop.
I don't know if I can take a girl with a tail.
That's what I'm saying. And they made her super girly. She has acorn earrings.
Oh, well, I don't have a problem with that. Girls can be superheroes too.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But my thing is like, oh God, I don't know if it's just because I just saw the picture and like the picture just bothered me. Like she has like a real life squirrel like on her shoulder.
Yeah, she can control the squirrels. Oh. She also has a taste for nuts. I don't know if that's a superpower, but she likes acorns.
Oh my God. But all I know is that supposedly she beats up Wolverine.
Yeah, so
that's where I'm having my problem. I'm not having a problem with a girl beating up Wolverine, like a female character. But squirrel-like abilities, like really, I guess a Wolverine, like what?
So apparently in the comic book series, she is unbeatable. So she's taken down some of Marvel's major baddies such as Doctor Doom and Fin Fang Foom and Galactus. Now one of the
anything else besides a squirrel, and I would have probably been okay with this. Even a raccoon girl would have probably been a little bit better for me.
So let this be noted, like for the records, I am not the one freaking out here.
I'm really upset about this character.
This is
really
Pauline who's upset.
Me.
So
she's really bothering me.
The fact that she beats up Doctor Doom, Fin Fang Foom, and Galactus is not that big of a deal because, as I've stated in a previous episode, basically Marvel supervillains are Keatons. Like Marvel supervillains are so easy to beat up that Keatons can beat up Marvel superheroes. And I can't use the actual word I want to use for what they are, but at least,
He's
whatever.
Saying kittens, by the way.
Keatons. So some of the heroes that she's gone up against and beaten was Deadpool, which let me remind you that Deadpool in a series went through and killed every single person in the Marvel universe in one, I think it's a standalone comic. And the Wolverine, who, just a little bit of an information about the Wolverine. The Wolverine wasn't always God, but somewhere down the line became God, because it used to be Wolverine had minor healing abilities, like, oh, I got shot, I can heal that, or oh, right. I got cut, I can heal that. And it's become, he can get blown up in a nuclear blast, and from the shreds of adamantium in his skeleton, he could regenerate his entire skeletal cardiovascular and muscular system. Like all the systems just come back because he's basically God now. And apparently Squirrel Girl beat him up.
Yeah, what is I just would have really appreciated something a tad bit more realistic to represent us.
Now, you have to keep in mind that Squirrel Girl is not like a super serious comic book. It's like
Well, I'm taking this very seriously, and I am very upset.
So
it just is so dumb. And like the picture that we saw, I was just like, what is this? It better be just like an animation so I could be like, oh, cute.
Well, it kind of reminds me of like, you remember Teen Titans?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Teen Titans was a pretty rad TV show from our heyday. Oh, back in the day. And
back in the day,
it was based on a comic book series that I believe came out in the 80s. I could be mistaken. Now, they did a little Teen Titans thing more recently called Teen Titans Go, where they're little chibi Teen Titans, and they're like, hanging out, and it's actually kind of funny. Like, when it came out, everybody around me was hissing and groaning and like, cancer, like, this is terrible, this is evil. And I actually watched an episode, and I thought it was pretty hilarious. Like, if you've watched the show and then you go and watch Teen Titans Go, like, it's pretty much like a good example of what an episode of Teen Titans was without all the seriousness. And I think that, like, honestly, and I'll hold by this till the day I die, I think that if they were to do an episode of Teen Titans, like a rerun of Teen Titans, and then run Teen Titans Go right after it, that would be a perfect combination, because then you got to watch the show in all its seriousness, which people would love to do, and people love to go back and rewatch these things, and then watch an episode of this little comedy bit that's making fun of the show itself. And I feel like that would also give younger audiences more of a reference as to where the Teen Titans Go even came from. Because I know one of the problems a lot of people have with it is, oh, they don't even know the original.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, well, you don't know the original because you didn't read the 1980s comics. So the New Warriors is an idea that they're shopping around. It's not going to be like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's going to be comedy, lighthearted. And actually, it's funny because Pitch Perfect's Anna Kendrick said that she would want to play Squirrel Girl, stating, and I quote, "My brother sent me a Squirrel Girl comic because he thinks I should play her. I don't know what Squirrel Girl does other than be half squirrel, but I could be
None of us know what Squirrel Girl does. None of us. So apparently she just goes around beating up tough guys with
Anna
her
Kendrick,
sharp teeth.
Judging by your acting reel and talents, I think you could be Squirrel Girl."
Yeah, that just bothers me. Oh, no, they have to. Oh.
So apparently, also one of the things that's important to note about Squirrel Girl, besides the fact that she had a crush on Speedball, scandalous, from the New Warriors, she also was apparently the nanny of Jessica Jones and Luke Cage's baby, Danielle.
Baby D. We'll just say baby.
Yeah, Danielle, I think is what it is. I think it's Danielle or Daniela. And so in the New Warrior, I'm really bad with names, guys. I really apologize. I'm sure you've seen that. So, let's see. Apparently, the New Warriors were actually part of the cause of the disaster that caused the Civil War in the Civil War storyline, which is interesting to note because that's not how it went in the Marvel movies. But different timelines and whatnot. So it looks like we're coming up on a break. And do you have anything else that you want to say about Squirrel Girl, Pauline? Just get it out.
Do I? I just don't get it. It just really bothers me. It just bothers me.
Like what is it about Squirrel Girl that really bothers you?
She's not ferocious. And then they're going to tell me that she's beating up ferocious characters? No. I don't see it. Maybe the Wolverine, I think it's because I love the Wolverine. That kind of like touched a nerve.
Okay.
Like kind of touched a nerve. Because
I mean,
really? How is she? How?
Have you ever been attacked by a squirrel before?
That's what I'm saying. Like, honestly, I would give it my food and I would definitely take off. However, I think if you were to put a real life Wolverine and a real life squirrel in a I do not think that my squirrel-like abilities would stand a chance against a real life Wolverine. It might not even stand a chance against a raccoon or my Yorkshire Terrier dog. Like, honestly, my dog will probably be like, what the heck is this? What's going on? Why have you betrayed me, master? But it's squirrel.
Spider-Man beat up the rhino, and Spider-Man's a spider, and the rhino is a rhino, right?
But Spider-Man's a tad bit I think also because of the picture that they had of her, like it looked like something my niece would draw because like it would be just like cute and fluffy, and so that bothered me also, and the fact that she had acorn earrings and like they're like huge acorn earrings, like they're not even like kind of like they're just not. oh no. And then she had that little tiny squirrel on her shoulder. Like, what is that going on? Is that like her sidekick, her conscience? Like, I don't get what that little squirrel does. That whole picture. And there was just too much pink. Like, you know, like pink's my favorite color. And pink can be kind of, you know, like aggressive. You know, you can have like a female character who wears pink and she can be pretty bad. Like, that's cool. The picture that they're using right now is just too, like you said, fluffy tail. Like, why is the tail so big? Like, the tail on the picture is so big. Like, well, I know squirrels have big tails. I know this.
I love how like, all of your like things that you hate about Squirrel Girl comes from one picture.
I just don't see how this is good. Like, this is something that I'm actually going to watch because I need to know what this girl is all about.
What if I bought you like the Squirrel Girl comic book?
I will read them and I will try to comprehend what this character is and what she is doing. And why they have to make her look so fluffy. Like, she just looks like too fluffy. She doesn't look like she's, like, strong enough to beat the Wolverine. Like,
okay, man, like, we need more female characters in the Marvel Universe. We need
do.
More movies and
but they're not going to. They have them like this, and they're not even, like, cool.
I feel like this really appeals to younger audiences as well as, like, a lot of, like, antisocial people. Like,
because, like, she doesn't even look cool, though. She's not a cool-looking squirrel.
I don't know. Like, I don't think she looks that bad.
Shay. She looks cuddly.
She does.
That's not going to work. No girl wants to be a superhero and be told, you're cute. And then supposedly also be told she whooped Wolverine. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It does not work. They either have to appeal to My Little Pony audience or not. Like, I don't get it.
Well, it definitely seems like the kind of thing like furries would be into. Like, it's like Furry, the comic book.
See? God, she's not even bad.
What was it you said last week? To each their own. Right?
Yeah, to each their own. But take it to a break. Okay. Take it to a break.
We're gonna go to a break, and we're gonna go get Pauline like some water and a soda or something, so that way she can cool off. So you guys cool off. And we'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch, whatever it may be.
I want to talk about a show that I've come to love. It's one of those shows that was recommended to me by a friend. He always watches a lot of adult cartoons, and he had sent this off to me, and that's Rick and Morty. And if you're not watching this show, if you're into... it's not particularly raunch. I don't know. If you listen to the show before, you know my type of humor, know the type of stuff I like to talk about. You know that the Rick and Morty is right up my alley, as it could be up yours as well. The background of the show was the creators of the show produced this little short that was supposed to be Doc Brown and Marty McFly, and they had these voices that, I mean, the guys clearly aren't really voice actors, but it was sort of like this homage to Back to the Future, one of their favorite movies. That short that got into a lot of internet fame branched out to being asked for, hey, can we do a show with these characters that clearly were inspired by these two, but not necessarily those two. So then they created Rick Sanchez and Morty, and then the show branched out from there. And the show actually goes into some pretty some pretty cool sci-fi ideas that they've incorporated, mostly with the infinite universes and the comedy that can exist in the concept that there exists a universe where anything that you can think of, that's the way it is. And there was a lot of excitement and anguish coming from the fans about it, considering that the time it took between the first season and the second season, over, I think it was like, 12 to 18 months? It took over a year to get the second season out of the show. And it's just come to be that this show is so incredibly funny. And I got to tell you, if you're not watching it, please do. And it's part of the reason why it's so funny and the stuff that they allow to do is because the main voice actors, being the creators of the show that are Rick and Morty, they are surrounded by true professionals. Chris Parnell coming, from SNL and Archer. The rest of the cast clearly have scripts, and they clearly have an idea and a direction of where they're going, and a dialogue that they get to perform, and they're pros. But Rick and Morty and the guys that do those particular voices, and also for other characters on the show, they clearly can do whatever they want. That they seemingly don't edit out slip-ups. They don't cut out the imperfections, and they really allow seemingly for the show to get recorded first, and then they animate over it. So there's 2 episodes now in the show where it's alternate dimensional cable, and clearly there is no script for the type of shows and the type of commercials that are recorded for these episodes. It's also and they keep the improv. So if they're recording a line that's based around a concept of something that they're trying to do, and they change the idea in the middle of it, the animation just moves towards that movement in logic and the movement in the dialogue. And it creates it's so funny for the improv moments, as well as the ones that are clearly scripted and very, tightly produced with the action and just the jokes and the concepts they do. The logic never leaves, and simply because they've opened up to the infinite universes, that anything goes is a part of the world. So as wild as it can possibly get, it all makes sense in the confines of the show. And they play on a lot of tropes in action and a lot of tropes in sci-fi, and they go into a lot of this stuff with the relationship between Morty's parents, and they're very self-aware in that regard, and they talk about it. They make a joke about like, oh, I bet all they're doing now is having some stereotypical fight about the relationship, and that's basically their through line, their character's through line of the show. And Morty's sister Summer, as she's brought into the fold, now the whole family's into the fold and know what Rick and Morty are up to, and just finished watching season 2, and what I have to give credit for a lot, although each show exists in their own episode, is that there is a through line, and there's a lot of callback when it comes to this show. When they make mention of previous episodes or bring in characters from previous episodes, and it's really unraveling a mystery of who Rick is and the stuff that he's done in his past, and all comes to bear in a lot of these. And the show has reached such a cult iconic status that lull between the first and second seasons, they even make fun of in the season finale of the show for season 2. I hate to sound graphic, but the character Mr. Poopy Butthole, which they even in the episode that he appears in, they keep calling him something different, which further goes to show like how loose of a format this show is, the way the script goes, that it really just plays into how long it takes to make the episodes. Clearly they're not spending a lot of time writing the scripts for these 22-minute episodes, but the creators, they just kind of do whatever they want, and they're really not held to a particular timeline. So they make fun of that lull between the seasons, like, hey, tune in for next season, should be about a year and a half. And it just go through and watch the show. I watch it on Hulu. The first 2 seasons are up on Hulu right now. Go ahead. But what had just come out recently, another addition, not just as far as the show goes, is they got a hold of a court tape. So like the stenographer, like the actual court readings of this trial, and then very loosely animated. It wasn't as tight as the show was, but then they have Rick and Morty being the voices of the defendant and the judge, and Morty is the judge and Rick is the defendant, and they're taking the actual court report from the trial and just those words said alone. So this actual trial that existed is already funny as it is with the content where they talk about the defendant who's wanting to get a new public defender or represent himself, and talks about the reasons why, and they talk about discovery, and Morty playing the judge is so funny because he's being clearly more mature than Rick's defendant character, which is usually how a lot of the times it is on the show, with Morty trying to be the voice of reason, and then he ends up finding out how wrong he is. And a lot of the show's great because it really comes to show how altruism is really kind of phony and illogical, and it's really self-serving and trying to gratify your emotion as opposed to the reality or logic. And the character of Rick in the final episode, he said he never bothered being nice because it's just something stupid people do to hedge their bets. And it is brash, and the violence can get a bit graphic. It's kind of funny. Or there's these parts in the episode where something is happening that you know is wrong, but you're not really sure. Almost like the South Park episode where Earth is on TV and they meet the aliens that run the thing, and they're doing like the weird drugs and all the sexual acts, and they're not sure. They're like, I know this is wrong, but I don't know what it is I'm looking at. So they do that a lot in Rick and Morty, and it's so loose, but the animation itself is pretty tight, and the stuff they get into, it's funny, and it has emotional depth in which they use it's a lot of that, almost like how, and they probably, if the creators ever heard me say this, almost a comparison to Scrubs, where it can be kind of zany and cartoonish and funny at one moment, and then they're almost in the next few seconds, it can take a turn into something serious and dramatic. And, like Scrubs or Weeds does a lot of that too, where it's just such an up and down thing where it's not taking itself too seriously, but it really lends itself towards making sense to the character. And season 2 ends with that, and they're playing like 9 Inch Nails Hurt and this whole thing. So just check it out. They're pretty quick to get through. It really seems like it goes by really fast. And I don't know if that's just because the runtime's short or just because it flows so quickly. There's really not a slow moment. There's really not a lot of slow moments in the show. So
thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Best of Television podcast. If you liked what you heard, you can find us on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes. You can find us on Google Play, and you can also find us on GSMCpodcast.com, or drop us a line at our Facebook site or on Twitter. Thank you for listening.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.